Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I would like to call this June 12th, 2018 meeting of the Kokomo Planning Commission to order. I would like to welcome Jason Skaggs, who's here from the Howard County Planning Commission. Jason?
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. I'd ask anyone in the audience to please turn off all cell phones or any other devices you might have that would disrupt the meeting. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Before we get into the meeting, I would like to make a little statement here. Rhonda Hill is our recording secretary. She does an outstanding job for us, and she is very busy during the meeting. And in the last 2 or 3 meetings, we've had some people come up and ask her questions during the meeting. If you could refrain from doing so till after the meeting, she would deeply appreciate it because she does a heck of a job for her, and it makes her job all the harder. So if you please do that, we'd appreciate it.
Your speakers ain't on.
It's the first time I've been accused of not talking loud enough. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from May 8th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any comments, questions, or concerns about the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. Director Sheline.
First case tonight, Mr. President, is case 10Z18, the petition of James Courts to EAC Scrap Processing LLC requesting the Kokomo City Plan Commission petition and recommend to the Kokomo Common Council for a change in zone classification from LI Low Intensity Industrial to HI High Intensity Industrial for property described as part of the southwest quarter of Section 24, Township 24 North, Range 3, City of Kokomo, Howard County, Indiana, at 2101 North Webster Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there someone here to present this case?
James Courts with the EAC Corporation. So we're requesting the zoning change for, we'd like to do some investment, equipment investment and improvement on the area that may include an additional building. But we want to make an overall improvement, and which would include additional positions that we'll need in the near term. And that's why we're requesting the zoning change.
Any questions from the board before we have a staff report? Director excuse me.
Sorry, I don't want to ask a question that's already in the. Go ahead.
Staff report for case 10Z18. James Fort, on behalf of EAC Scrap Processing LLC, is requesting a change in zone classification for the property located at 2101 North Webster Street. The planned use is a scrap metal processing facility. Joining property uses and zoning at 2101 North Webster are: to the west, C1 small to medium scale general commercial; to the east, R4 urban residential and C1 small to medium scale general commercial; to the south, LI low intensity industrial business park; and to the north, HI high intensity industrial. According to the City of Kokomo comprehensive planned use map, this property is located in an area proposed for heavy, medium industrial and office, high-tech, light industry. The proposed use is compatible with the comprehensive plan. Under land use goals, provide opportunities for community growth and developments which results in enhanced quality of life, a wide range of housing opportunities, economic vitality, and enhanced recreation while preserving environmental integrity. Relevant land use objectives are to remove barriers to the redevelopment of vacant or underutilized commercial and industrial buildings, allow for a variety of low, mid, and high intensity land uses to better ensure that there are diverse opportunities to live, work, and play. The City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan Transportation Map defines Webster Street in this area as a local street, a street that is designed primarily to provide access to abutting properties and discourage through traffic. The traffic count on North Webster Street in this area is 495 cars per day. The requested zoning change is compatible with surrounding zonings. Therefore, the staff recommends the Plan Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the Kokomo Common Council.
Any questions from the board? Now we've had staff reports. Anyone in the audience have any questions on this case? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case 10Z18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. It will now go to the Common Council and will be presented there by Councilwoman Janie Young. Director Sheline.
This case, Mr. President, is case 11Z18, a petition of Tim Martin with Advantix for Trailside requesting the Kokomo City Plan Commission petition recommended the Kokomo Common Council for change in zone classification from R4 medium density urban residential to M2 general multifamily residential for property described as Heaton, Albright, and James, Kokomo, Howard County, Indiana, at 711 North 3rd Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
You're fine.
There's some, yes, there is. Please go ahead.
Hi, Tim Martin, Advantix Development Corporation, 402 Court Street, Evansville, Indiana. We are the developers of 35 units of supportive housing. We're asking for a zoning change to accommodate this construction, 3-story building, to service families that are homeless with substance abuse and chronic mental illness issues. I'd also like to pass out some information to the board if I may.
Want to go to staff report, or do you want to?
You could ask Mr. Martin probably what they're going to do here in the staff report.
That's what?
Ask Mr. Martin, give a quick description.
Okay. Can you tell us basically all the agencies that's going to be involved? And what we're
Sure.
doing?
We are partners in this project along with the Kokomo Housing Authority. I have the Executive Director, Ms. Deb Cook, here with us tonight. Also, Fort County Counseling Services, who will be our service provider on the project. They are here represented as well. And there are other various members in the community that will be working with our population that are here and available to speak if that's desired. I'll let Ms. Deb Cook talk about our population, some of the wraparound services at the project.
Thank you.
Deb Cook, 1738 West Walnut, Kokomo, Indiana, Director of the Housing Authority. This project is to serve, as Mr. Martin said, those who are homeless in our area, in our region, who are suffering from substance abuse disorder and/or a co-diagnosis of mental health issues. This will be a secure building. It is for families of any composition.
Can you get a little closer to the mic, honey? I
Sorry.
can't hear you. I
I'm
apologize.
sorry. This is for families, and could be any composition of families. It could be a father with children, mother with children. It could be any substance use disorder. And it's for wraparound services. They will be on site for those families in a safe and secure environment. These are families that are currently homeless and have been diagnosed with the head or co-head of the household has been diagnosed with substance use disorder and/or a mental health disorder along with that. And we see such a gap in services. The Housing Authority will not own this project. We won't manage it. I just see a need because we serve around 3,000 folks in this community, and we have very strict federal guidelines. We have to put people on the street for behaviors, and when we do that, we have to put families out, which means those children end up on the street. And this is there's no option for them. So I see this as an option for those families to offer treatment as for the family unit and to help those children. And we have 444 children. This is from data from the Kokomo Center School or the Howard County school systems who are homeless or housing insecure. And that's 440 kids that are in school and being counted. That doesn't count the kids that we don't see. So we see this project as much needed with the substance use disorders that we see and the population. So we see this as a much-needed service, and it will be, there will be staff on site, management staff, social service staffs, and we will be connecting to other agencies in the community.
Any questions from the board?
Can you tell us what kind of investment this is, dollar-wise?
The project represents approximately $7.5 million of total development costs.
Do you have other locations where this facility is currently in use?
This is the only, will be the only development of its kind in this county, not only in Kokomo, but in the county itself that serves homeless families. We have a similar, Advantage Development Corporation has a similar project in Evansville called Vision 1505. It's the first and only project of its kind in Evansville that serves homeless families. It was developed in 2010 and been operating since that time period.
I'd like to ask someone to be supervising all the time there.
There will be staff on site daily, and then we'll have groups working overnight, so we have 24-hour presence at the property.
What are our homeless stats?
I'm sorry,
What type of number of homeless people are we looking at here in town?
as far as the need goes.
Yes.
I actually did not bring that data with me. The continuum of care, the Region 5 continuum of care for homeless, that those stats are online, but we know there are about probably 40 families that are not housed or that are in temporary housing, and this is permanent supportive housing. This is not transitional, this is permanent. And hopefully they move to self-sufficiency, move on, and other families can move in that need the wraparound services. But and again, the count's done on during the worst of the winter in a February, and they're depending on people to come out and say, I'm homeless, count me. So we know there's an underpopulation that's not counted that needs services.
Thank you.
How many units did you say, sorry? How many units did you say again? Or did you?
This is 35 units.
30, okay, so it's a smaller project.
Correct.
Okay.
Is this a competitive?
Yes. So the background of the project, in order to be approved to develop supportive housing in Indiana, you have to make an application to the Corporation for Supportive Housing and to the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority. They jointly review applications. They look at need in the communities where you're proposing to develop and ensure there is a need. And then your team, based on your project team concept, your team members are graded, and then those that are at the top of that list get invited to participate in an institute. Our team participated in that institute this year, and now we're bringing that project forward. The next step will be to apply for low-income housing tax credits in a set-aside round in July.
Could I ask how many bedrooms?
We have a mixture of units. There are 5 one-bedrooms, 20 two-bedrooms, and 10 three-bedrooms proposed for this project.
I have a question. So the inhabitants, they are going to have full employment or no?
No, this is a homeless housing development. Where services will be provided with the intention that we help families become stable and be able to move out of the property back into society and have a normal life.
How long are they allowed to stay there?
It is permanent housing, not transitional, so there is no time period where they would be required to move.
Then how would you get them prepared to move out and get them stable again? I guess
That's the wraparound services that we're talking about, and that's going to be coordinated through 4 county counseling services. We'll do on-site case management, evaluate each individual participant, their families, and what their specific needs are, develop a plan to help them become self-sufficient.
these are people with a drug problem?
Yes,
How's that going to be monitored?
again, through that social service wraparound on the site.
So they'll be tested regularly to make sure they're not bringing the drugs in there with the children?
The project will be monitored, and there will be on-site people making sure drugs aren't coming in and out of the building. When you say testing them,
Okay, so they leave the facility, get high, I come back and they're around children because they're not tested. So how would that be monitored? Would they be thrown out?
There are house rules, and if they violate the house rules, they'll be evicted. That's correct. The intention is to prevent homelessness, not to recreate homelessness. That's where the
understand that, but when-
supportive, that's where the
understand that.
counseling and supportive services come from. So again, each case is handled individually. So when a situation arises, there will be a process to go through to make sure that that's taken care of and the safety of the overall population is at our, first focus.
I understand, but you're going into a neighborhood that has a park and a community center close to it where children are out in the open all the time. So I'm concerned, if they are drug people, are they going to be out there amongst those children? I mean, it's a shame they've got children, they're doing it with their children, but however, I mean, you're in an area where there's a lot of kids that play. You got Dunbar Courts, behind Dunbar Courts, you've got the park there. Then you've got Carver Community Center, probably 2.5 blocks down the street, maybe 2. So I'm just wondering how they're going to be monitored to where we make sure they don't come into that community and we have a bigger drug problem in that community than we already have.
Again, with on-site supervision and their case management, their movements will be monitored. Their comings and goings will be monitored. So there will be people that will be able to intervene if there's an issue arise, whether it's daytime or nighttime.
Okay.
How are they being monitored now? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's-
Well, they're not being monitored,
At all.
but then again, they're not living in that.
They're here.
They are here. I know they're here. I
The fire
know
department
we have
deals with
homeless
them
here.
every
I
day.
see them in our community. I know that.
And they're not all just homeless, they're transient from one place to another, one rental to another. They scrape together money for a month and they get kicked out after a month, and we're trying to deal with those landlords, trust me, but they're here already. I mean, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I understand what you're trying to say, but what I'm getting at is now we are giving them a place to live where they do not have to work, and they have a drug problem, and the only monitoring we're doing is somebody on site. That makes me a little nervous, I'm gonna be honest with you.
I get it. I see these kids every day, and it's not the kids' fault, that's all.
Oh, I agree. That's the one thing I hate about it. I'm surprised, well, I'll let that part go, but
But with the monitoring, they're gonna get counseling and like life coaching.
Right. There will be a lease. They will have to abide by those leases, and we will have workforce development, we will have other types of training. They will be expected to pay rent. They will be held accountable. It's not they will have to pay rent, and they will have leases and have to abide by the rules. Again, you can't monitor everybody that comes and goes in other housing, but this will be secure, and there will be somebody there, and there will be cameras, and it's going to be a safe place to get them so they can get treatment and get better, and the kids aren't on the street, and the parents are getting help. So it's right now, these are people who are homeless. They're wandering, and like I said, the stats for the kids that are in school, I never would have guessed that there were 444 kids in our school systems that are homeless or housing insecure, yet somehow they still get to school and try to have a normal life. Some of the kids come to our homework club and our programs. They don't live with us, but their parents have been kicked out for drug activity or other behaviors, and we're the only stability they have. They still come back, but they're wandering around, not really living anywhere. So we see this as an option for those kids to reunite and get those parents better so they can be parents to those kids, and they will be in a safe environment.
Excuse me, you have another partner be working with you, don't you?
No, I
Isn't
have
it like what
self-harm for kids.
Sherry
I don't have
works with?
self-harm.
The Systems of Care is behind this, yes, Turning Point, Sherry is here. Turning Point is behind this project, the hospitals are behind it, IUK, all of the partners in the Systems of Care are backing this project. It's going to take the whole community. I mean, we are partners, but it's going to take the whole community to help. And we don't see this as just one entity handling all the services these folks will need. But we need to get them in a secure place first. This model is called Housing First, and it's a state model. That means get them housed first, get them in treatment, get those kids safe. You got to get them housed, because you're not going to get people to treatment and get those kids safe if they don't have a bed to sleep in.
Don't Evansville have something, but it's not called that, kind of? Don't they have something like that
Who's that?
in Evansville?
Yes.
Right, it's the very same type of project in Evansville that we're proposing here tonight.
Okay.
People are referred through the Coordinated Entry Program. That's a group of agencies that work directly with the homeless population. Everybody's assessed based on a critical needs evaluation, and then they're referred over for housing based on their specific critical need.
And how long they been doing that?
Since 2010.
I thought it was.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. With the development and the commitment that you're making with this project, what are you committed to as far as timelines and managing it? How long with the funding? And
Well, this project will be developed using low-income housing tax credits. So from a time point, it's a 15-year compliance period, which is your investment period. So we're long-term owners, long-term operators of the project. After 15 years, then a decision has to be made as to what to do to continue the project, continue to leverage additional resources to keep the property operating.
How many employees altogether will be here? Is there any full-time and part-time, I assume?
Correct. Full-time management and maintenance, part-time administrative clerk and maintenance. So we anticipate 3 full-time positions, 2 part-time positions, not counting the social service providers. That's specifically managing and taking care of the real estate.
Since you said Evansville's been in existence since how long?
2010 is when we
Can you
were
give us a
funded.
track record or some, can you give us any information on how those people have done, how many, can you give us anything to?
Sure. From the perspective of putting people back into the population, it's been an overwhelming success. We've had families to be able to be reunited because the head of household gets into stable housing. They reunite the children in that space. Then they work with both the court systems, if that's the case, hospital providers, and also our wraparound services to help them become stable. They deal with whatever issues or barriers they specifically have, and then they've moved out into the community. So we've allowed other families to come in to be served. So that property is 32 units. So we've had over 60 people come through and move out into stable homes since 2010.
There was a University of Southern Indiana study on this type of project, and they found, and this was done by the university, and there was 100% reduction in use of emergency shelters, 83% savings associated with incarceration, 78% savings for medical hospitalization, 66% savings for emergency room services, and 62% savings for mental health hospitalizations for those who go into this type of housing, and if they hadn't. There's also 81% of the tenants lived in their apartment for about over a year. 69% reported increased school attendance for their children. That's 69%. 67% reported higher level of involvement in their children's education. We deal with that on a daily basis, trying to get parents involved in their children's lives and education. 53% increase in community involvement, and 58% reported that conditions of their neighborhood is better with this type of project in it. So this is data from University of Southern Indiana in Evansville. I think it was based on your project. And there are other health outcomes from Chicago, from Seattle, from Denver, and San Francisco showing the same type of things in this type of housing. So there is data and research to support that these projects do work.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board?
I see every day people being taken in to the hospital due to being homeless and not mentally able to take care of themselves, or due to overdosing. My question is, how do these people, how will they know where to go? Is that where the hospitals and stuff come in to recommend them to this facility?
Tim mentioned the coordinated entry system, and that is the systems of care and the homeless council in this community. It's actually a 5-county area, and it encompasses Howard, Miami, Tipton, Cass, and Wabash counties, and we meet on a regular basis. And we have folks that are now doing the assessments, and there's no wait list. This type of housing is for those the most urgent need first. And they're currently doing assessments, Van Taylor at the Rescue Mission, Angie Siskey at Jackson Street Commons, Kathy at CAM, Jason Mitchell from Emmaus, and that's in Logansport, Dale Bliss of Advantage Housing, and Jeff Lipsky at Community Howard. So we have professionals in the area doing those assessments, and they would rank those families as who is the highest need first and get them in a stable situation. So we do have folks who'll be doing that assessment, and it's through the coordinated entry system here. And this is Jackson Street Commons model, same funding stream, and same guidelines as Jackson Street Commons. And I did see something about that veterans would be excluded, and that absolutely is not true. You can very well have a veteran who has a family who has a substance use disorder and is homeless, and they would fit into this project. And I believe I talked with Tracy, and she said that they have families that don't fit at Jackson Street Commons. While they're veterans, they're one bedroom, there's not enough room. And this would serve that population as well. Nobody would be excluded.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Hall, before I get you, I'm going to have Director Sheeline read the staff report, and then we'll get right into the questions, please.
Court Case 11Z18. Tim Martin, on behalf of Advantix, is requesting a change in zone classification for the property located at 711 North Purdom Street. The planned use is supportive housing. Joining property uses and zonings at 711 North Purdom are to the west R4 urban residential, to the east R4 urban residential, to the south IS institutional, and to the north R4 urban residential. According to the City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan land use map, this property is located in an area proposed for medium and high residential uses. M2 is a compatible zoning designation for this area. Under land use goal, provide opportunities for community growth and development, which results in enhanced quality of life, a wide range of housing opportunities, economic vitality, and enhanced recreation while preserving environmental integrity. The relevant land use objectives are to remove barriers to infill developments on vacant residential lots, to minimize, remove, or prevent the introduction of factors that are known to destabilize existing residential neighborhoods. The City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan Transportation Map defines Purdom Street in this area as a local street primarily designed to provide access to abutting properties. The requested zoning change is compatible with surrounding zonings. Therefore, the staff recommends the Plan Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the Kokomo Common Council.
Any questions from the board on the staff report?
I must ask, how long do I have? Seriously.
I'll let you know if you get off.
Okay. If
You
it
gotta
tend,
remember, I've seen you at a microphone before.
yeah. If it tends to get preachy, please don't feel wayward. It's just my style. Why is this facility in this location? Yes. Oh, sorry. Lewis Hall, 1527 North Wall Street, Kokomo, Indiana, formerly 807 North Purdom. Why is this facility in this location? Something is better than nothing. I have one in my neighborhood also. Neighborhood revitalization. The way we improve other areas of Kokomo community is with medium income housing. What concerns me the most as we look at this project and future projects yet to be determined is that whether points of views represented by these individuals that are present if presented, have apparently been silenced, overlooked, or not considered. This is similar to the Jetsons. Remember the Jetsons? We would laugh at it, George and the wife and the children. This is similar to the Jetsons, in which I finally noticed that all the planning and representation of the future presented a world in which I had been moved out of the picture. Finally, as our opinions and views are not being considered or acted upon, it further directs me to understand my life and my future have been marginalized in that future. Remember the sins and actions, again, remember the sins and actions of past leaders. You're talking about us, Lewis? Yes, past leaders, people such as you and others. Remember the sins and actions of past leaders that decided to colonize what they couldn't cure. That's what we did as a society. Why is this facility again in this location? Something is better than nothing. I applaud. I like this project. Something people said is better than nothing. Others have said, I have one in my neighborhood also. Jackson Street Commons, I was on that project. I was with the Family Services when we wanted to do something for the homeless, and the government said, we will help fund it more if you do something for veterans. What did we do? Veterans is wonderful. And it came to fruition. Jackson Street Commons, 27 units, 2.5 blocks away. Apperson Way Apartments, 69 units, separated by a thin thing called a street. Dunbar Courts, 24 units, 2 blocks away. And this proposed facility, 35 units. One of my concerns is Chicago, Cleveland, New York, Detroit, Indianapolis tore down their apartments, tore them down because there were so many things that had been centralized and concentrated there. Tore them down. Now we are 155 units of housing within 3 blocks. 155 units within 3 blocks of each other. My concern is the location. But everyone is saying, not in my backyard. Someone said, I have one in my yard. The other one told me I had one in my neighborhood also. Well, these individuals will have 5. 5. Count them. 5. It's a good idea. It's a great idea. The homeless needs it. The veterans need it. The drug offenders need it. But we're concentrating all these issues together, at-risk individuals, and putting them in an at-risk neighborhood and expecting success. That's what we have to think about. Is there a better location? And others are going to say, not in my location. Well, these individuals are not going to say, we have one. They're going to say, we have how many? Jackson Street, the Apperson Way Apartments, Dunbar Court. I grew up a stone's throw away from this facility. So I know what it's like to live in that area, and I know what it's like for those facilities that are that close. Just consider, why are we concentrating, why are we going backwards? In my last comment, why are we going backwards and concentrating all those things in one area? One person said, well, this is going to be smaller. Smaller? 155 family units within 3 blocks of each other. Thank you for your time, Mike. It's good to see you. Thank you for what you're doing. Make sure you listen to each other and vote what's best for Kokomo. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Karen Lancaster. I live at 710 East Elm Street, Kokomo, Indiana, 46901. Hi, everybody. I hear the sentiments of Mr. Hall, and I agree very strongly in what he's saying. That's a lot of units of low-income housing. Have we not learned from past history of what we've seen in other places where you concentrate high-density, low-income housing with at-risk or high-risk people? What grocery store are they going to shop at that is a full-service grocery store, firstly? They do not have a grocery store within walking distance or within a mile that is a full-service grocery store. I mean fresh fruits and produce, fresh fruits and vegetables, a butcher, a baker that has services offered like money orders and so forth. Let's say, just say Kroger's or whatever. But Save-A-Lot doesn't cut it. The produce is not fresh enough. Aldi's does not cut it. I love Aldi's. I shop there frequently. But I cannot get everything that I need from Aldi's. If I didn't have a car, what would I do to get a carton of ice cream home to my family at my house at 710 East Elm Street? What would I do? If I have 3 children and I have to take the trolley to get to the store and I can only take what will fit on my lap, how will I get groceries home? So you want to serve the community in this way, and I agree with Mr. Hall. This is an excellent project, but the density of the area, I feel, is just way too much. Way too much. Too many projects in one area that could potentially be catastrophic if things go sideways. And I agree with Ms. Rink. I think she brings up a very valid point. I think that somebody from Ford County Counseling should have been here to represent what they would do with 35 units of residents who are struggling with dependency issues and mental illnesses to monitor their behaviors and their comings and goings and their care. Because this is a neighborhood with children in parks. This is a neighborhood of families, people who work every day and come to and fro. Why are we not considering this in this development? Why are we not taking this seriously? I have a ton of questions regarding staffing for Ford County Counseling. I have a ton of questions for that. But I feel like, while I agreed that Apperson Way Apartments was a good idea, I did, against many other people's belief. But I know we needed that type of housing. We needed multi-unit housing that was affordable for families, especially small families that don't want to take care of a yard or the things that come with having a house. We needed that. We needed the additional housing. But we know also that if we really want people to become independent, which is Ms. Ring's question, we have to provide transitional things, programs, wraparound services that can get people on their feet. And which leads me to my other point. We were announced last year, told that we would have single-family homes developed on empty lots around our city. Would this not have been an opportunity for our city to do that? We were told that there were going to be single-family homes developed on these empty lots, and they could buy it. The city was going to work on purchasing houses that could be torn down and leveled for that purpose and sold to residents of the community. Literally, the community building and shoring up one another and getting people the first step to accumulating wealth, which is home ownership. Why are we not focusing on those things as well?
The city is doing that, ma'am.
Where is that happening at? Because it's not in my neighborhood.
Well, it may not be in your neighborhood yet, but they are working.
Well, that's my point. That's my point, though, Mr. Sheline. I understand. I do. I really do, because I like all of the projects almost all the projects that I see. You have done a wonderful job. You really have. But my neighborhood is getting multifamily units and not single-family homes. And that's a concern to me as a resident who lives right there around the corner. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
Sir? Yes. I got someone here who can answer that lady's question, so I'm gonna let her speak, and I'll get you. Is that okay? She asked some direct questions, and this lady's supposed to be able to help her, so please go ahead.
My name is Tiffany Secree, and I reside at 5582 Mackinac Way, Kokomo, Indiana, 46902. I am the director of the clinic at Ford County, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. Okay, all right, my pleasure. She said she would get with me afterwards.
And may I, just to another point? The deputy mayor had to leave. He had an appointment at 5:30, but I participated in a meeting with an architect designing infill housing in this neighborhood. So they're providing plans for the city to review. I know it's a project that's ongoing, to your point, so it is adjacent to and in close proximity to this project.
Darnell Smith, 1019 East Haven Street. I'm a lifelong resident of Kokomo. Just recently retired. I own my home there at 1019 East Haven Street. And from the newspaper article, it said, I guess it was Mr. Sheeline that said, improve the character and raise the property value.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain that to me? How it's going to improve the character?
Number one, you're infilling several vacant lots with a brand-new facility, which, in my experience, has always helped property values.
Keeping my property clean and maintenance, maintained, that increases my property value.
Absolutely,
Okay.
But
Now,
but
this
infilling
particular
vacant lots also does the
this
same thing.
particular location is 4 blocks from where I live.
Okay.
I have not lived outside of 10 blocks my entire 62 years. Okay? Now, that's home. And I appreciate a nice home. I love my neighborhood, or I would have moved out to whatever subdivisions that y'all may reside in. Someone else quoted, needs a shot in the arm, it needs some love. Needs a shot in the arm. No, it needs a daycare center. We had one. I am not against homeless shelters. My place of worship has rehabbed multiple properties in this town and turned them over to CAM. I'm quite sure it had to come through here to get approved. These are family shelters, okay? It was the first of its kind. We didn't do it for publicity. We didn't do it for tax credits. We did it because that was the right thing to do. Okay, y'all know what you're up against? I'm not saying not in my backyard. I'm not saying not in Kokomo. You gotta have it. You got a nice property out there, Brandon and Markland. Anybody thought about that?
I think it's a slag pit, to be honest with you. I
Oh,
don't think they're allowed to develop it.
but you were willing to put the Powell field over there. I'm done.
That's not Brandon and Markland. No, that's further west. Yeah, you can't build on the property of Brandon and Markland. Okay.
Good evening, Deandra Beard, 1507 North Delphus, a business owner, 108 North Main Street. I'm here tonight mostly because understanding development in many communities that I've lived in around the world, when you begin to see situations like, as Mr. Hall and Ms. Lancaster have mentioned already, when you see issues of concentrated poverty, concentrated anything, you run into the same issues. I'm sure Evansville had its, we can study and take time to, and I would love to take time to look at what happened in Evansville and compare it to what could possibly happen here, but we obviously don't have the time to do that tonight. But when you look at case after case, when you go to Brazil, go to New York, go to any other city, and you can see the same thing repeated. When you have concentrated poverty, you have concentrated issues. And if we are not prepared as a community to deal with those issues, then what are we doing? The other piece is development. When the rest of the city, I'm a business owner right around the corner. And I moved back to this community about 11 years ago. And when I moved back, I was excited to see, well, first of all, when I came back, I was in the middle of economic downturn, but I moved here with a purpose, to help improve community and to be a part of this community. And as I stayed here, I saw development begin to happen, but what I've seen continuously, because I'm from this same area, like Mr. Hall said, a stone's throw away from this site location, when I see development happening rapidly in other locations and all over the city, in other parts of the city, and I look at my neighborhood and every proposed developmental project has to do with impoverished people, right? Units that meet the needs of just impoverished people. Okay, moving back here, all I heard was, especially as a business owner, people come in and say, oh, I'm just moving into town and people told me not to go to the northeast region of this city. People who were coming in looking for homes, coming to have a cup of coffee and a meal, they said over and over, countless times, I've had to sit down and say, who told you that? Oh, really? Someone told you that over and over? I was like, well, I'm from there. I run there at night. My mom and dad live there. My entire community is in this same region. But over and over, we have articles in the newspaper that say a shot in the arm, or articles written up about crime that's occurred. Only those things, not the good things that are happening, not the churches that are doing wonderful things, and then on top of that, we decide we're going to put a shelter or housing that's specifically for drugs, people who have drug habits and who have a history of mental illness, in the same neighborhood that already has this stigma of, well, you all know the stigma that's there. I don't have to explain it. It troubles me in a way that caused me to close my store early tonight to come around the corner to be here to be a part of this conversation. I am absolutely for this shelter, this housing being built. I'm absolutely for it. Absolutely. It's what we need. This community, I run into people every day, even in the store, who are homeless. I've fed people from the store, had conversations with people, but at the same time, I'm from this neighborhood that continuously does not get development that is going to be value add, meaning all the way around value add, not just property value, like value add, you all know what I'm saying. Not just, there's no grocery stores, there's so many things that could be done in that same lot. So many projects that, and I'm willing to come to the table to help brainstorm those ideas. But the same thing over and over, development in this neighborhood equals dealing with those who are impoverished. And we're not all impoverished. We're not, right? We all have a story that may be similar to some of you all who are sitting here. So there's a need for more than just what we're seeing here, what we're talking about today. Find a new location. Look for somewhere else to do it, right? And I'll volunteer whatever it takes to make that happen. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a diversification in the projects that are happening in this same region. In order to bring about the changes that we want to see in the neighborhood, it has to come from more than what we're seeing here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lionel McNeil, 1511 East Taylor Street. When you buy real estate, it's 3 words, well, 1 word 3 times. Location, location, location. And I applaud the project. Don't get me wrong. I'm for the project. I just don't think it's the best location for it. If you're going to house alcoholics, across the street from Supley's may not be the best location for it. If you're going to house pedophiles, a couple houses from Sycamore School may not be the best location for it. And so here we are. Even like I said, I'm not down in the project, but we're putting people with drug addictions in the middle of the neighborhood with the biggest drug problem. It just doesn't make sense from that aspect to me. And even though I'm sure the Evansville project is doing well, but is it in the worst drug situation in that city? And so why would we do that here? It don't make sense to me. And I know you say it's going to be monitored around the clock. My mom monitored me when I was a teenager. When I was in that house, there were certain things I could not, wouldn't dare to do. But once I left Mulberry Street, I did what I wanted to do. But I didn't do it in her house. So I'm just saying, maybe, let's just consider, is this the best location?
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Etowanda Beard, and I live at 1507 North Delphus. That's Etiwanda, Etowanda. I don't have anything, I don't want to feel like I'm rambling, but I might be. I applaud what is trying to be done. I understand that we need help for the homeless, for drug addicts, and their children. I'm all for that, but I'm of a mind that we need another location, just like he said. I was trying to figure out where could we go? It's obvious that the West Side doesn't want it over there. The East Side really doesn't want it there, and the South Side surely does not want it out south. I was looking around and I thought, you know, and you've probably all heard this before, Signature Inn. I don't know what's happening in Signature Inn, but it seems to be on a decline. It looks like it's a good property. I know it's on the main route in and out of Kokomo, but I think we could probably do a lot more with 7.5 million. Maybe that building could be refurbished, renewed, restored, something done to it to do the same thing that we want to do on the north end. Push it out south. I have a grandson that's here today, and I grew up on the 1300 block of East Jefferson, and also I stayed above my grandmother on Apperson Way. We were, as children of that era, tightly held. And I want to be able to feel free for my grandson and my grandchildren when they come to town just to be. You know, I don't want to have to say, don't go that direction because of something that might harm them. So I'm asking that you all would consider another location. I really want to see the program go. I really do. And then I thought about what happened to Reba Harris? Did she have any input? This is her life's work. This is her life's work. I haven't heard her name mentioned not one time or what she has been doing for years. She left Delco and started immediately on that work. Has she been considered? Has there been anything said to her? Because she has great status in some of our worlds. So I don't want to see her pushed out and pushed away from what she does. So I feel like if you could bring her in and even maybe sit her down on the board or whatever it's called, sit her down so she can have a part of this. And I think that we as a community would feel better if we had some input. Right now I feel like we have nothing. You know, we don't have a voice. It feels like you're gonna do what we say. This is what's best, we think is best. And Mr. Hall talked about, I thought about Cabrini Green in Chicago. That place is destroyed. And they've gone to other housing across the country, as has been stated before. Most cities are not doing this. They're not building a mass building and placing homeless and drug addicts and others in those buildings. Right now in Memphis, Tennessee, where we frequent every year, all of that lot, that acreage, those homes that were there have been leveled and they're going to single homes. St. Louis, which I've witnessed, going to single homes. There's lots of cities that are going to single homes because you find if you put everybody together in one basket, things are going to happen. Things are going to happen in the house. So I just ask you to find another location. I have no problem with what is wanting to be done here. I have no problem whatsoever, but I feel like when that goes, if anything happens, then there's going to be a huge net that drops over that whole community, and it's going to be roped in, and we're going to be caught. So I'd like to see it someplace else. Thank you.
I did talk with Reba before we went to the Supportive Housing Institute, and she's also on the Region 5 Planning Council. We've talked about the project. So I did talk with Reba. She does great work, and we do want her involved in the project.
That makes me feel better.
Good evening. I'm Bishop Charles E. Glenn. I reside at 719 East Taylor Street. I'm senior pastor of the Fountain of Life Worship Center, located at 611 East Jackson Street, and I'm president of the Kokomo 10-Point Coalition. About an hour ago, 2 addicts OD'd on the corner of Purdom and Taylor Street, approximately 3 blocks from this proposed location. I heard somebody mention 400 Kokomo students from Kokomo Center, but when I read the article, I don't remember it mentioning Kokomo Center students. I remember it mentioning people coming from Miami County, Cass County, Wabash County, Tipton County, and Howard County. I remember it mentioning homeless and addicts. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, not too long ago, there was a major drug bust in Northeast Kokomo. So we're going to build an apartment complex that's going to house homeless and addicts that are not going to be taken care of, that are going to be able to run willy-nilly, to do whatever they want to do in a community that has already been designated as a drug-infested area. I'm a citizen of Northeast Kokomo. Unlike everybody else who said they're pleased with the project, I am not. I'm not pleased with the project. Yesterday, I took my time and I rode up and down Bell Street, Purdom Street, and Jefferson Street looking for residents to tell them to come to this meeting to oppose this, because I'm not pleased with it. I don't want it in my community. I'm a citizen of Northeast Kokomo. I've been a citizen of Northeast Kokomo for 72 years, and I don't want it in my community. It doesn't belong in my community. I don't need any more addicts in my community. There's enough addicts in my community now. I don't need any more there. I love everybody, but I don't need any more addicts in my community. We have enough there now. We have a major drug problem in Northeast Kokomo, and I don't need any more addicts there. I was raised at 906 North Purdom Street, and if you don't know where that is, that's Dunbar Court. That's where I was raised at, in Dunbar Court. At that time in history, I'm an old man, but at that time in history, it was free. There was no problems. There were not drugs floating around as there are now. It's been designated that Northeast Kokomo is the drug hub of Kokomo. If it's the drug hub, why would you permit housing to be built for addicts? Thank you.
My name is Samuel Hall, 2824 Braden Drive, Kokomo. I was in last week, and I noticed everybody keeps saying you got 5 units. You counting the one that you got approved last week? You came in last week talking about a unit.
It's the same project, sir. Last week was just the variance.
That's what I'm asking. Is that the same one?
Yes,
And how many
same
more
one.
are you planning on building?
Yes, sir.
Beg your pardon?
Just this one.
That's this one. Okay. But nobody home will be taken for that project.
This is actually a whole entire block area. All those lots are empty. The city owns them now. That area has a lot of dilapidated homes, a lot of vacant lots, and they're also going to be infill market rate, not low-income homes built around this project in that area. It's not just this is the cornerstone of that whole project. So those lots are empty now, there's nothing on them, and and like Tim said, he sat in a meeting with an architect. They're designing infill, single-family homes in that area along with this project. It's not just a standalone. It's going to be a whole neighborhood revitalization.
Okay, my question is, the people that have standing homes there now that they live in,
We're not taking
they're
any,
not touching.
no, nothing's being taken down for this project. These are empty lots.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I say one more thing? Is anybody familiar with Fall Creek Place in Indianapolis? Okay, at one time it was known as Dodge City because of the crime. It was horrible. I mean, it was the drug hub. It was the worst area in Indianapolis, and they started this type of revitalization with infill and other type of supportive housing, and that area has completely turned around, which increased the property values for all the properties in that area. You have to start to revitalize the neighborhood rather than empty lots. I think it would be a benefit.
Can I answer that? Yes, I'm well familiar with Dodge City. Dodge City is located on the corner of 25th and Central, where where one of my brother's pastors, the Open Door Church of Deliverance. Dodge City has been built into single-family dwellings. They're not apartments. They're single-family dwellings.
Okay, so I hear that we're saying that's part of the project, but if we're talking about infilling, what we're saying is that why aren't we focusing on those single-dwelling projects? Infilling, I'm all about it. We know all the research. Well, I know all the research that talks about empty lots and crime and all of the background of that. That makes sense. We know the infilling needs to happen, and we've been asking for it. Ms. Lancaster just said, we haven't heard, what the project plans are. We're hearing tonight that it's still going forward. Awesome. But that's totally different than apartment buildings with concentrated poverty. There's totally two different things. And I feel like people want us to be like, oh, it's going to be a good thing. Why aren't you happy that you're going to get development? You're going to get this, and then when you get this, these are the additional things that are going to come along with it. Be happy about that because it's going to be good for your neighborhood. No, we're saying we want development. We need development, but there are ways to develop any community, and we have to be conscious and very cognizant of the types of development that are needed in a community. Apartments that are dealing with addicts and people with mental health issues. We have story after story of situations when we deal with mental illness and drug addiction. I have an uncle that was murdered by someone he was just walking down the street with someone who was mentally ill. We get that. We understand it. Bishop Glenn just said, we know that story. We've got it down pat. So, and I also understand about wraparound services, but there are so many other projects that can happen to fill in these areas that need to be filled in and have needed to be filled in for years. I've been here 11 years and I've watched every project, the money that was given to tear down the housing. I got it. And I was at the meetings that talked about what will we do with those lots. But at this point, it's not saying bring more addicts to a concentrated area that we've already got an issue and a problem with into our neighborhood. Thank you.
Any comments from the board?
I have a question for Fort County. What is going to be done for security
But we are providing the security, so that would be Tim who would better answer that question.
Is people just able to come and go as they please? Are there?
No, this is a secure facility. It's not a prison, it's not a jail. A tenant has rights to move about. But on the property itself, there'll be security cameras, there'll be security access, where it's a key card process, electronic access. So people just can't come and go as they please. You have to have a control key to get into the facility. There'll be on-site management during the day. We'll have after-hours presence to walk the halls and to keep up with traffic, make sure that nobody's in the building that shouldn't be in the building.
Is there a time frame of when they can come and go?
When who can come and go? The resident is able to come and go at their leisure. It's their home, and they have the ability, and they're free to travel whenever they want to. So there's no limitations, there's no curfew. This isn't a dormitory, it's their home.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
I got a question. My name is Joyce Anderson. I live at 906 East Elm Street, which the police call E Block over there. And anyway, I work at a local facility, and we deal with a lot of drug addict people. And I was wondering, how you'll monitor these people when they come in, they done took a hit of drugs. You don't know if they're in there on the floor till the kids see them, because we done had people where we had to put heart monitors on them, and that's how we found out they OD'd in the hospital. And then we had one lady that went in the bathroom. She OD'd in the bathroom. Then when we searched her items in the closet, she had all kind of knives in there. So how secure is this place going to be? You have to have people monitor people that's on drugs. And then, like, if you have some kind of infection in your arm that you shot up heroin with, you can't let that person go out with an IV asset because they put drugs in it. And they do other stuff, so you don't have to have a lot of monitoring. Because, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get home some evenings when I leave my job safe and secure. And they came up from India and asked us, how safe do we think we are? We're not safe.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience?
Excuse me. I know you asked about the board, but could Mr. Sheline let it be known we hear and we discuss here, but the council is where?
Yeah, just so everyone knows, all this board's looking at tonight is the rezoning for this property. That's all we're looking at tonight is the rezoning. This is an advisory board, so whatever this board decides to do, it will go forward to the common council, which they will then hear the rezoning. If they pass the rezoning, then Mr. Martin has so many months to get his application in. If the application is then approved for development, then they would have to come back before this board again for development plan approval. So there will be other opportunities to let let your concerns be known. There'll be other opportunities besides tonight.
That answer your question, Mr. Hall?
Yes, thank you.
Good?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted him to explain that.
No problem. Okay, hearing no other discussion, I'll now call for a vote. All in favor of case 11Z18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
I'll call roll. Mr. Glover?
Aye.
Ms. Rink?
No.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Stranahan?
Yes.
Ms. Jefferson?
No.
Ms. Durham?
No.
Ms. Rule?
No.
Ms. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Besser?
Aye.
Because we get to discuss it.
Rezoning passes 5-4, so it will go before the Kokomo Common Council.
Would you let him know when it would be at the council, please?
Have you driven up there?
You know when the schedule will be for that?
Yes.
Do you know?
Burned every house down there.
Do you know?
We meet fourth Monday. What day?
It should be that Monday, the last meeting.
Could you announce that?
25th?
No, I don't.
And
I'm not gonna tell them. I'm gonna tell them. I better tell them 25th. They're gonna go down there. Try to be there.
There's several line of business.
We'll get out of here real quick. Give them a second, get out. They had more chaos on the come short.
Oh, McKinney? He's getting ready. He's busy. Right now. We've done that several times.
Okay, folks, we got more on the agenda. If you would like to stay, fine. If you're not, we'll give you just a second to leave, and then we're going to go ahead and continue with our agenda, please. Okay, Director Sheeline, next case, please.
Yes, in this case, is case 1P18, the petition of Oakmont Development requesting final plat approval for Autumn Woods at 1275 West 300 South. Mr. Johnson is here for this case.
You need a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
You're up, Wyatt.
I'm Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road, Tipton, Indiana. Is there anybody here from the neighborhood? There was a lot of questions that I should have been done better at answering or addressing earlier, but I've got thought there might be more members of the neighborhood. Does anybody want? Do you have enough to share? Does anybody want another color?
Can I have one, please?
Sure.
The whole city's my neighborhood.
Okay. Anyway, there's a hatched area that's right here, right to the right of that cul-de-sac. That area is a wooded area that is owned by the developer and will not be developed. It will remain wooded. The area immediately to the north of that, or the right, if you've got the north arrow or the bar scale so you can read it, is a wooded area that is owned by an adjacent landowner, and he plans to maybe cut trails through it or something like that, but he will not clear it. There is a cart path at the bottom or the east side of that wooded area, so that will be cleared enough for the cart path. Then the blue areas are not ponds, but they are depressed areas where stormwater will accumulate during storms, and there's enough of them so that we'll release less water for the 10-year storm after development than would be released for the 100-year storm.
The other way around.
I got it the other way around, yeah. Will more than meet the city ordinance, which allows us to release only the 10-year storm rate before development for the 100-year storm rate after development. So we'll hold a lot of water, make the drainage better. In addition, the developer is going to pave the area along Center Road in front of the property with an intermediate layer, which will vary in depth. It'll be from 0 at the east and west ends and be as much as 5 inches in the middle. Then the city has a plan, and I'm city engineer in Tipton, so I know it doesn't always happen the way you hope it will.
It's going to happen.
But Kerry says it's going to happen. They have a plan to repave Center Road this fall, which I think could just be a surface layer.
Right, we'll put the 1.5 inches on top of it.
The lots all meet the ordinance. Sanitary sewer plans are done and submitted to IDEM for their approval. The water plans are done and have been tentatively approved by the local Indiana American representative. The road plans are done and the storm sewer system has been designed. So I think that everything is in order, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Right, this is the detention that was, just for the board's information, on the north end of the project, there is an off-site drainage easement that the Board of Works approved last week. That is an area that is going to be maintained by the homeowners collectively according to the easement. This detention area is established in lieu of a detention area that was going to be on the south side on an adjacent property. So this meets the city's ordinance, and that's why you don't see any detention on the west side of the proposed street. It's on the north side.
Right, and also, I should have mentioned, about in the middle of the page, there's a kind of a finally hatched area that looks like a cul-de-sac, and that is a temporary turnaround. Just to the right of that is a dark line. That's phase 1. Phase 2 will happen whenever they sell enough lots in phase 1. Also, there's some red areas down by Center Road, and then up by the cul-de-sac at the south end, or the intersection at the south end. Those are wetlands, and we've been permitted for those, although we're not disturbing enough area of the wetland to require mitigation.
Did you understand where he was talking about? Okay. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience?
Stephen Cecil, 1634 Fox Haven Drive. I just had one question. I'm not sure if this is the right venue to ask, but I know during the first meeting we discussed when getting rid of the woods, they said that it was going to be mulched and chipped and it would not be burned. Though I saw a permit was filed for a burn curtain for the woods. Just curious if anybody can answer the question on that. I just know there has been a lot of questions surrounding this, and my neighbors couldn't make it today because they're out of town. I've discussed it with them. But I'm just curious what other details have changed since all this started.
Okay, I'm not aware of the burn curtain permit. The first phase will only disturb a small area of woods south of this blue area and maybe part of it, because part of the drainage has to go into there. So there won't be much woods clearing in the first phase. I was told that they have that in their other projects, and they have a lot of them up around Fort Wayne, that they have a crew that comes in, chips the wood, and sells it to Walmart. If that's not correct, I've just been misinformed. So I
know the permit said something, it was between 11 and 17 acres that they were burning. So
the only thing is, I would wonder if it's this area. I'd be surprised if it was this area.
Well, it was over in Cricket Stick was the address, which is right adjacent to the division. Was the address for it.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm not aware of that. Best I can tell you.
Let me ask this, is there any prohibition today to do for, I mean, if we don't approve this, can they still clear? I don't see, that's not something that, so even though, say we approve phase 1, they could come in and do the clearing for the entire project if they wanted to while they were at it.
That's correct.
And it's not something that we could necessarily
Yeah.
keep them from doing. And I don't know if maybe that's the case, maybe it's not, I don't know. Because you'd think if it's gonna be 3 or 4 years before you were gonna do it, you weren't gonna cut everything down, because it'll grow back, stuff will start growing back and you have to come back again, but.
Right.
But,
Carrie, I did receive a copy of a burn permit from DHS. It wasn't approved through my office, but it has been approved by the state, and it was that general area. Nobody's contacted me though, the state or a contractor or developer or anybody. So I do know it does exist, and it's been several weeks since I received it, but it did have an expiration date on it, and I'm gonna say it might have been 6 months or something, but they were to contact me before doing anything, so.
okay.
If that helps.
Did we tell them they weren't gonna burn at one time?
I don't know. I mean, if DHS gives them a permit to do that, I mean, we don't have a local ordinance that
do
would
not.
prohibit. would oversee-
Unless Nick does.
They would still have to go through us. We would make sure meteorologically it was an acceptable day and that, you know, it wouldn't be a burden or anything on property owners adjacent to, or, I mean, we're not just gonna let them go in and.
Right, okay.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case 1P18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Director Sheeline.
This case is case 418, a petition of Travis Davis for TNT Auto requesting development plan approval for TNT, TNT Auto Sales and Service at 1433 East Markland Avenue to give Mr. Johnson the case.
Move to approve.
Second.
For the record, Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road. TNT owns an existing car lot at the southeast corner of Markland and Elizabeth, and they have purchased a property to the east. It's about the same size. We've gone through tech review. There are setbacks along Markland where they can't have parking right up next to Markland, which every car lot would like to have. So they've complied with that. There's some landscaping that's not shown in the plan I'm looking at, and I think it complies with the ordinance in every other way. I believe, Mr. Sheeline, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't work too much on this plan personally, but I think they're removing some pavement along Markland on the existing lot.
That was agreed to in TAC meeting.
All right, so that some of those cars that are there now will set back farther.
Correct. And I believe Mr. Stranahan brought that up during.
Yeah, they didn't have any problems doing it. I mean, it's gonna match, they want it to match.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience on this case? I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case 4A18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next case is case 3P18, the petition for pass for Sagoo minor subdivision, requesting preliminary and final plat for Sunoco convenience store to be located at 1201 East Morgan Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road, Tipton. Gary Sagoo has, he originally developed Kokomo Quick Stop at the corner up by 931 and Washington, and has since sold that and now wants to develop this. His marketing plan is to be in a neighborhood, so rather than on a busily traveled road. He feels like the neighbors come in and purchase the convenience goods in the store, so and that's what makes the profit, makes him go. So there's an existing building on this site that will be totally demolished. A new building will be built. It will be set back farther from Markland. Canopy will be out towards Markland, but set back the required setback distance. Some of the pavement will be demolished and repaved, but a lot of it will remain. And he has adequate parking and meets the ordinance as far as I know.
Wyatt, I'm sorry. Did you say Markland?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean Markland. That was the other street. Starts with an M. Yeah, Morgan. Morgan in Ohio. I don't even know if I said Markland, but I didn't. I shouldn't have. That's what Carrie was laughing at, I think, wasn't it?
No, I can't remember what I was laughing at.
Everything in plan? Good.
No, you said they were tearing down the whole building, and they're not. I don't think the plan shows that part of the building stays.
It originally did.
Oh.
We were originally going to do
Okay.
that.
That
but
was,
the-
I thought I
but
just
he-
looked at the set of plans.
He got a hold of an architect. The architect convinced him that the existing building was in bad shape and needed to be demolished.
Basically the same dimensions as the previous one, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will mention real quick, just like I did in TAC meeting, I was hoping Mr. Sagoo would be here tonight. But we had an issue with him on the first store he did because of landscaping, so I will be watching him extremely carefully. You can be sure and tell him that if you want.
We've told him that.
But everything, but he really
Yeah, you didn't have,
I'm
yeah.
okay with the project, but I just want to make sure that he follows through on it.
Right.
Okay.
And we've told him that, and I will again tell him
I
that.
appreciate that.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience?
Terry Tater Roach, 1100 South Buckeye. Don't need another gas station, convenience store. Thank you very much. There's a village pantry down there on Apperson and Morgan. And then what's that? Right there on 931, there's a gas station. Why you gonna put a gas station right there?
This board does not determine how many gas stations are convenient.
Oh my God!
Not on a development approval.
Not on
If
development plan.
if this was rezoning, then we would,
Yes.
but we're not rezoning.
All we have to do is make sure it fits into our zoning ordinance. That's all this board is
Unfortunately,
looking at.
we don't.
Okay. Well, I just had to come say something for my friend that left. Say no more gas station, convenience stores. We need a grocery store.
Mike Embler, 7609 East, 50 North Greentown, Indiana. I own the property west of this address on Ohio and Morgan Street. And my concern is the property east, which we're talking about here, Family Dollar was going to come in there and put Family Dollar relocate. And they soil board, and it didn't pass inspection. Soil board things. And mine, when I bought my property, we soil bored and core boiled the whole property to make sure it was legal. And the thing I'm concerned about, putting a gas station there, the tanks will be underground. If the tanks leak, and I know you're looking at numbers, or you're looking at the future, draining over there on my property and contaminating my property. And the second thing, is there going to be a lagoon to hold the water from the parking lot that's coming off of this property?
It's a pre-developed lot, so it's not the proposed runoff isn't going to be in any excess than what it is now.
I do know that currently, a lot of water from North Ohio run down past that barber shop, across the street, and around my area there. And it's eroded away that whole gravel.
You're talking about the northwest corner?
Yes, yeah. But that's what I'm concerned about, is the water, and the main thing is about the storage tanks.
I believe we've notified the owner of that. We've put him on notice that that he needs to address any potential environmental issues that are on the property. That's not part of our approval, but he is aware, and just like everything else that he has to do that we don't look at.
Yeah.
That's one of them. But we were told the same thing about Family Dollar, and that was a corporate decision that they made. Must have.
Right, Family Dollar made that.
And it wasn't anything we told them they couldn't develop because of that. So he's been made aware of it, and I assume that if there is some sort of underground contamination existing, he's going to find it when they put the tanks in, or could come very close to finding it when he puts the tanks in.
Now, does the city inspector monitor when they put the tanks in?
That would be IDEM. He has to get a permit to install the underground storage
Right.
tanks. And so
But no one actually,
The state would. The state, our state tax dollars.
but they're watching them dig the hole because.
I don't know what they do.
And the reason I say that
They
is
get a
because when you,
permit. Sure.
past my past experience, you pull tanks out and you find a line and you can see contamination through the soil.
If they dig it up and there's a stink to it, then somebody should say something. Now, whether
Okay.
they will or not, I don't know. But if we get a call about it, then we're gonna address it. But
The water problem shouldn't be no water problem, and the tanks, they'll be aware about that.
And I did address that with the new owner twice.
Yep.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Terry Roach, 1100 South Buckeye. This ain't the board, but I need to know who do you talk to about keeping them damn lots clean. Because all these when I was in 5th grade, they hired me to wash off the lots with soap and water. Now gas stations have where you don't even get rainwater on them, but they didn't even have shelter when I worked at gas stations back in the day. Who do I talk to? Who would I go to about keeping gas station lots clean? Because they're pretty nasty with gas and oil. Since the rainwater can't even hit them. Who would I talk to about?
If it would be a nuisance violation, that goes.
Well, it stinks and.
Are you talking old gas stations that are closed?
No, the new gas stations, the
Go
lots.
to the owner and talk to them, tell them to clean up his lot.
Well, I tell them all the time.
Gas off of him and that'll
That's hazmat. Call the fire department.
I can tell you that Sunoco did a study, and they're satisfied that they'll sell enough gas there. And to Mr. Embler's question, it's a liability for Gary if he finds any oil on there. I think he's bought the problem once he buys the property. Unless he finds it beforehand, then it's the previous owner's problem. He has done a phase 1 study, and I think it showed that he didn't have to do a phase 2, but I'm not positive about that.
Did you hear that statement, Mr. Embler?
Pardon me?
Did you hear what he said?
No, I didn't.
He's done a phase 1 environmental study, and I think that showed that he doesn't have to do the phase 2.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the board? All in favor of case 3P18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Director Sheehan.
This case is case 5A18, petition of Singh Sagu requesting development plan approval for Sunoco convenience store at 1201 East Morgan Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Wyatt.
Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road, Tipton, and I guess we already probably covered everything, unless somebody's got a question.
Anyone have any questions on the development plan approval on this project? Anyone in the audience have any questions on this? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case 5A18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Director Sheehan.
This case is case 4P18, petition of Jeff Carney for Wilmer of Kokomo requesting preliminary and final plat approval for Emerson Minor subdivision at 2904 South Albright Road.
Move to approve.
Second.
Wyatt.
Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road, Tipton. This is a one-lot subdivision, fronts on Albright Road. It's big enough to meet your ordinance, has the frontage to meet the ordinance, has water and sewer available. So I believe it meets all the ordinance. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case 4P18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Director Sheehan.
Last case tonight, Mr. President, is case 6A18, petition of Jeff Carney for Wilmer of Kokomo requesting development plan approval for Emerson Place Apartments, 2904 South Albright Road.
Move to approve.
Second.
Wyatt Johnson, 555 Market Road, Tipton. Mr. Carney would like to build 6 duplexes on this lot. He planned to rent them. Recently, he started thinking about selling them. I don't know what he's going to wind up doing, but if he has to sell them, I think there's maybe some other different things at least that we have to do for him. So those would be addressed if he decides to sell them, but he plans to rent them at this time. There'll be a private drive. We have enough parking. We have 4 little spots that are set aside for cars in order to meet the ordinance and have enough parking. Quite a bit of landscaping, actually, so it meets the ordinance as far as I can tell.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case 6A18, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. County?
We do have county, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be about a 2-minute meeting.
2-minute meeting.
So I don't know that anyone really needs to take the time to come to that, to be quite honest with
If
you.
I want to go to county meeting, it's 2 minutes. Quicker.
You'll go? Okay, thanks, Dan.
Next on the agenda is approval of claims.
I move that we approve approve claims in the amount of $35,383.33.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve claims. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, claims are approved. I just got one thing, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sheeline called me late today. We was kind of in a panic. If you're gonna come to a meeting, please call the office and let them know. If you're not, please don't let them know. I know we all think I'm just one person, but if a couple of us forget, as of about 5 minutes after 4, we was not gonna have a quorum tonight. So if you're gonna come, and I'm probably the worst one. I call, I don't ever send an email. But if you can let them know, that way we know, we don't have to be in a worry at 5 minutes after 4, we're gonna have enough people to have a meeting, so.
And I am too old to stress out over that, so.
And he was stressed, jumping. He was-
Please just shoot me a quick email and let me know, and that way we don't have to worry about it. I appreciate it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.